To talk Solent, where we'll be discussing news in our Solent region and some national subjects too. We'll be discussing 8 articles this evening. I'm Jonathan Hines, and joining me on the sofa, giving us her opinions and her expertise, are the lovely Becki Houlston, a renowned life coach from Dorset. Becki specialises in stress and anxiety. Now, to start this evening, should Albion Tower's tower block be changed from grey concrete to red and white stripes? Saints Football Club's famous colours? This will be decided this evening by council chiefs. Do our buildings, and in particular our tower blocks, need more colour, and could this be starting off a trend? So coloured and stripy tower blocks, Becki, a good thing which will enhance the appearance of our urban landscape, or too much like a children's playground?
Well, I'm slightly concerned that it's the council that are deciding. I'd rather have an interior designer deciding what would work and what would look good. I'm not sure that the council are best there with their colours and what goes well together. But I'm sure they've taken some advice. I think being supportive, having a sense of belonging and identity in a community is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure how well that will weather. You know, in 5-7 years' time, is that actually going to look a little bit like? I mean, I don't see it's going to wear very well.
Because although it's covering the grey concrete now, it's going to have to be repainted, isn't it?
And also, you know, I think of some of the towns in Europe that I've seen that have that look, and they've weathered and fallen apart quite quickly, and it's looked tatty very, very quickly. So actually, yes, I'm all for giving buildings a bit more of an identity and making them look good and look homely, but I'm not really sure that's the best option.
I mean, nobody likes, you know, grey concrete. So, you know, obviously colour's a good thing, but as you say, it could end up looking just as bad as the grey concrete in a few years when it wears down.
It's a bit like when you have a broken leg and you get given the options of having a coloured plaster cast. You know, your leg's still broken, but the purple plaster cast might look a bit prettier. So what is actually going to look like? And I think it's up to the community around that, you know, they need to be very much involved in that decision too.
Yes.
But have they explored all the options? I'm not sure.
And I'm not sure if red and white, for those people who don't like football, I'm not sure if red and white would be the most neutral colours, because red is a colour that only certain people like, isn't it? And white is, well, white. You can't
please everybody, no. You know, and but how do you get the majority on board? But I think we can do better than that. I think we can produce something that's a bit more stylish. There's something a bit 1970s about that. It's going backwards rather than forwards.
Well, it's funny, it's quite coincidental, because I was only having this conversation with a gentleman yesterday who's an architect, and I said, you know, these grey concrete buildings that seemed like a good idea when they were put up in about 1970 or the late 60s, they were all the rage at the time. They seemed like a good idea at the time, but now they just look absolutely diabolical, don't they? This grey concrete, but it was fashionable at the time.
There's a lot to be said for timeless.
Yeah.
And you know, yes, they need updating. Yes, they need to look warm and welcoming. And people care for things that look like they've been given a bit more love and attention.
Yeah.
So I'm all for perhaps making some changes, but I'm not sure that that's the way to go.
I know I've often noticed in France, you know, you hinted at the continent, I've noticed in France a lot of the council blocks do have colours on them, you know, sort of like triangular or diagonal colour schemes. But I haven't seen that much here. Maybe that will be the way it's going. And on the article here, we've got a picture of the red and white stripes that will be on the Albion Tower. Hopefully you can see that there. So that's red and white stripes. And also we've got a picture, there's a tower block which many of you will be familiar with in the Gosport area, which has a bit of a colour scheme, some stripes going on there. What do you think of that? Do you think that enhances the landscape? Does that cheer you up, or does that just look a bit naff to you? What do you think? I'd be interested to know. So,
better
some stripes there, yeah.
For me.
More neutral colours there, maybe. Right, excellent. Now, the New Forest now, and it would appear it is, along with Southampton, becoming a bigger tourist destination than ever, with its food and dining being a major reason. James Martin has recently announced he's leaving BBC One's Saturday Kitchen after 10 years at the stove, and he was a junior pastry chef at the renowned Chewton Glen Hotel in New Milton back in the early 90s. And indeed, our area of Hampshire seems to have been attracting big names from the culinary world, such as Hugh Fernley, Whittingstall, Rick Stein and Marco Pierre Wight, all setting up in Winchester in recent years. So how big a factor would the dining and restaurants be in attracting you to an area or as a tourist, or would it be one of the last things you'd look at? Would this be one of the things that would make a visit to the New Forest worthwhile for you, Becki?
Absolutely. I'm someone that is afraid of my oven. I have no understanding how you can put these sort of ingredients together and they come out edible. So, you know, anyone who can cook and anyone who can cook really well is up there with wizards for me. Possibly dark arts. I mean, how does it all happen? Put a bit of fire in, out it comes. When I put a bit of fire in it, it just comes out cindered. So I think, yes, you know, food is passion. It brings people together. It's very sociable. And I think you reach an age in your life where you don't want to stand in bars and get bustled around. It is actually about going and having a good dining experience. And it's appreciating someone's artistry too. And I think we're really spoilt in this area for the amount of great culinary experiences we've got, you know, from a really high budget down to, you know, some local passion projects. You know, there really is some exciting food experiences to dive into.
So you have the odd ready meal then, do you, Becki?
No, I don't. Do you know what? I don't actually, because that involves supermarkets, which is another place I'm not too keen on. But obviously, you know, I do sort of take care of myself with nutrition. But no, you know, I'm functional. Let's say I have a very functional relationship with food. But, you know, I've just discovered herbs and they're like a game changer. So I'm very behind the curve. So appreciating anybody who does something well. You know, and these guys have studied for years and years. They've turned their passion into a business. It isn't just about making money for them. It's about other people sharing their art.
Well, Rick Stein, of course, is now resident, and he has a restaurant as well in Sandbanks or Camford Cliffs in Bournemouth. So there's certainly some relevance to this article. It was interesting what, slightly digressing, one fan voiced their disappointment across social media about James Martin leaving the show, said, "Saturdays won't be the same again without my Mr. Eye Candy," she wrote.
Well, you know, and he is quite a nice Saturday morning treat.
Yes.
But also, you know, nothing stays the same. And I think, you know, we've got to allow people to adapt and to change. And I'm sure he's got plans afoot. You know, it must be, as an artist, it must be, you know, it's a big commitment to be doing Saturday morning for, you know, for 10 years. It's a fantastic success for a show.
Yeah, yeah. So what was it? So did you find it difficult to learn to cook in the first place, or
Sorry,
was
what?
it just
learning?
Yeah.
I'm still there. I'm still on the learning to cook. I think it's more of a case of
still in the home economics class, as they called it when we were?
lemon curd. I've got lemon curd down from there. I don't think I've progressed.
That's lovely.
I don't think I've progressed from lemon curd. But yeah, I did recently splash out and buy a cookery book. So I made my first cake the other week as well.
Yes. Yeah, you made your first cake.
I made my first cake, age 43, my first cake.
All right. Oh, you're not afraid of giving your age away. Everyone on the show last week had a complex about their age. When I first saw that article, Becki, and it said the New Forest, we all know the New Forest is a huge tourist destination. But when I saw that article and saw the reasons, you know, the main focus of this article was restaurants and what food is available, I was quite shocked. I didn't think that was going to be the main, determining factor. But it seems to be a big one for people when they're looking at places to visit.
Oh, they want a whole experience.
Yeah.
They want a different environment, which the New Forest certainly gives people. I mean, you know, we are so blessed to have one of the most beautiful parts of Britain right on our doorstep.
Yeah.
With that comes all the produce that comes from that. And seeing what people can do with what we walk past every day is really quite inspirational, do you not think?
Yes, absolutely. And it's infinite, isn't it? The amount of new recipes that are out there is infinite, and we have more and more cooking programs, don't we now, on TV, more than we did maybe 10, 15 years ago. It used to be more maybe the French that would have more of that on TV. Now there's been people are looking at nutrition more now, and they're looking to cook from scratch more, and they realise how over the last maybe 20, 30 years we've been abandoning our health and just eating whatever. And now people are starting to rethink it.
Well, let's look at two of the great British dishes. If you go anywhere in the world and you say Brits, what food would you associate Brits with? Fish and chips, or the roast?
Yeah.
The roast dinner, or or possibly a fry up for English breakfast. Does that not say it all?
And there's nothing bland about those things at all. I mean, often our food is notoriously, people think it's bland and then we don't cook. But those two dishes you just mentioned are far from bland. If I was living abroad, Becki, there's one thing that I would really, really miss is fish and chips. Because nowhere abroad can they do it like they can here. They wouldn't be able to get that, the smell wouldn't be the same, the whole ambience.
The
wouldn't be the
vinegar.
same.
I think it comes down to the vinegar, which is apparently a special kind of vinegar that they use. But that's, overall, when you think of a Mediterranean food, what do you think of?
Anything to do with pasta.
Right, I'm thinking flavours, I'm thinking much more herbs, I'm thinking of olive oil, I'm thinking all the
Calamari.
all the widgetry that goes with it. Whereas, with Brit food, it's more, is A plus B equals C.
Yeah.
And I probably could make fish and chips bland. But, so I think...
Don't worry, Becki, I've even got a ready meal wrong before. No, when I put my mind to it, I can do it, but I
never put the plastic bit that's not supposed to go in the oven. I learnt that one as well.
I think if there was somebody else there with me, I would cook. If there was someone to chat to while I was cooking, that's fine. But when it's just for me on my own, I just terribly, lazy.
Well, that brings it back to how social food is. There's a lot of love involved in food. So, I think people could perhaps get out their comfort zone a bit and explore some of what the New Forest and surrounding areas have to offer.
Absolutely, yes, yep, that's right. Now, coming up very shortly here on Talk Solent with myself and Becki, after the break, we're talking robots and self-driving cars and the Isle of Wight's preferred candidate for top police job revealed. Back with you again very shortly after this.